Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. The Bishop of Mozambique's Catholic Diocese of Pemba is expressing deep sorrow following a terrorist attack that destroyed the historic St. Louis de Montfort Parish in Cabo Delgado province. He said the local community remains in shock after the assault. Joining me to talk about this is Ed Clancy. Ed is no stranger to this program, Director of Outreach for Aid to the Church in Need. Visit churchinneed.org. Ed, thank you very much for joining us. How are you?
You're welcome. I'm well. I hope you as well.
I'm very well, and always honored to be able to connect with you. Thank you for being at the forefront of highlighting these issues. Just give us an overview of what has happened.
Well, it's a recent attack in that it happened just a few days ago, a little bit over a week ago, where the church was attacked and burned down. So the church, just about 80 years old, I believe they consecrated it in June of 1946. And so it had become a center of the community. And Mozambique, or north portion, is, has a higher Muslim concentration, but places around the church, like St. Louis de Montfort, have high concentrations of Christians, and with that, a high concentration of Catholics. So it was a very targeted attack. The problem is that not only does it destroy a historic church and a center of worship, it is also a center of education for the children and a community center for the people in Mozambique, which is one of the poorest countries in the world.
Even as we cover this, I think it's very clear that we take for granted just how blessed we are in the civilized West. Tell us about how Bishop Antonio Julias Ferreira Sandramo has been reacting to this.
Well, always acts in a very diplomatic and peaceful way, seeking to build bridges, to work with the members of the community who will accommodate them and also seek peace. So the bishop has been on the forefront of outreach to the communities that might be affected by these radical Muslims. And also, I guess it's about 6 years ago, contract signed with the Mozambique government up in Cabo Delgado, which is the region not far from where the church is, for an investment of something on the order of 20 billion euros to do exploration for natural gas and petroleum. And at that time, the church was upfront saying that they would help and assist a very poor community in these resources that needed to be extracted, using it for the betterment of the people, and as well creating a society more like it was perhaps back in the 1960s and 70s when it was a Portuguese colony.
Why do you think this particular parish was targeted? It's a long-standing structure and symbol since 1946 of Catholic life in the region.
This happens throughout Africa and many places where there's Islamic jihadism, where there is these attacks. They go for the very prominent symbols, they go for the priests, they go for the leadership, because they realize that in these places, especially in this area of Pemba, that the Christian community are oftentimes very poor, and they also are not protected. So the church represents not only a symbol of worship, but of protection and safety. And so when a church is destroyed, and this happened in all throughout Nigeria, in places like Benue, where dozens of churches have been destroyed. And just to look at the historical record here, we're up to about 120 churches destroyed in the last 5 years, Catholic churches. So it is phenomenal. And again, Mozambique is a predominantly Christian country, 60+% Christian. And of that, almost half are Catholic. So the Catholic Church not only stands as a symbol of Christianity, but it is essentially, like Christ said to St. Peter, the rock upon which the Christian faith in Mozambique is built.
One of the things that also immediately stands out is that this particular church was the home of Cameroonian missionaries. Do we think that they were being deliberately targeted for, in this case, execution?
I believe they go after missionaries especially, because it's missionaries who enable the church to do its work. It is, those are the people that go into the areas where nobody wants to be. They help the people who need the most help. They work in areas that are the most vulnerable. It is the methodology throughout Africa, throughout the world, where the idea is to create a destruction of the social order and then take advantage of it. So ISIS-aligned groups in Mozambique are now seeking these young, especially Muslim boys, and recruiting them for their armies, for their jihadist efforts. And so there's sort of this unholy trinity of corruption, or a government that is incapable of protecting its people, poverty, and a lack of education. The school system in Mozambique is devastated, and it is these missionary communities that provide education. In fact, reading classes were offered at this church and this parish, so that the people of the community could learn how to read and have a better future.
The sad thing is that Bishop Sandramo had brought this to the attention of the Vatican before. And would you please share with us what the death toll looks like in this Cabo Delgado area? How many parishes have been attacked thus far? Because it doesn't seem to be being mitigated anytime soon.
No, I mean, just again, maybe to give a little historic perspective, this type of stuff has been ongoing since, the Civil War. But even beyond that recently there's been this uptick of violence, starting with the fall of Libya and the Arab Spring that happened in the early 2010, 2011 timeframe. In 2012 was the first real attacks in Mozambique, and this is where it centered. Over the last 14, 15 years, there have been somewhere in the order of 1.1 million people displaced. There have been hundreds of people killed and many more injured. And in fact, the devastation to the parishes, I mentioned that there's 120 or so churches that have been destroyed. And the problem is that these communities cannot just rebuild, and they end up being scattered. So the bishop has sought help from all places, and we at Aid to the Church Need have always tried to echo his voice and enhance what he's saying and bring it to the awareness of people, especially in the American church, because what we did with Nigeria recently by declaring it a country of particular concern, something similar can be done in Mozambique, where it becomes a point of reference. If there is this economic development in Mozambique, they could actually produce more government revenue from the development of the gas than they have in their government budget in any 1 year. So they would literally have somewhere in the order of $20 or $30 billion available to them to help rebuild the community. And that's another reason why these Islamic radicals want to be there. They want to destroy any sort of Western or Christianization of the area that would come with sort of a normal social order, schools, and churches being involved in the rebuilding of the communities.
Cardinal Pietro Parolin made a visit there, and the bishop spoke with him. Do we know of any statements that were made by the Vatican, by him on behalf of the Vatican?
No, there hasn't been one yet regarding what is happening. It always is better for the church to wait to assess. There will be certain activities that happen quietly, and obviously the biggest thing right now is for us in the church to pray for them, but also when there is an opportunity to support them, there are going to be thousands of people displaced because of this, and a community devastated. They're going to need our help.
Well, Ed, thank you very much for making the time to speak with us about this.
Well, you're very welcome, and keep praying for our Christian brothers and sisters who suffer their faith.
Will do. My guest has been Ed Clancy, Director of Outreach for Aid to the Church in Need. Pray for our Christian brothers and sisters, in this case in Mozambique, who are dying for Christ. I'm Marcus Peter.